Hello? Testing. Okay. Yo. What's popping, gamers? Already on it, bud. Appreciate it. What's popping, y'all? Small challenge today. And then after all that, I have an announcement about the future. The future is coming. Pause. But, anyways, um, yeah, real quick, just these two challenges look super good. Whoa, what was that? What the? Y'all hear that? That's There was like a random. My computer's made a charm noise. What? That was weird. Okay. Anyways, I'm not sure what that was, but um, welcome, Duffy Dan. I'm glad you're coming too. Um, all right. Um, cool. So let's start with Dimma real quick. And right off the bat, I'm gonna say both are extremely accurate modeling wise. Like there is before I started streaming, I was looking around like, holy shit, there's like no feedback on the models. Um, super awesome stuff. I mean, the way you guys are matching the wood, it like is perfect. There's really like super nitpicky stuff would maybe be like um yeah. So even when I look for like a nitpicky thing, it just turns out to just be fine. So you guys did super good matching the reference. I really have nothing. Even for both, I just like everything looks so exact. You guys even got the little screws down there. Um, it all just looks really good. So you guys absolutely nailed that. Really nice. But yeah, I can't find anything. I've been scouring this for like 10 minutes before I started streaming, trying to find anything. That is awful. When someone sends a message, a charm pops up on Twitch. That is awful. But thank you. Good morning. Good morning, Vietnam. Let's go. Excellent. Since when has that been a setting? So you send a message in chat and then it like makes a charm noise. I don't. That's really absurd that they would just change that all of a sudden. But um, reminds me of that Fortnite thing where they added like friend requests and it would pop up like you got a friend request, and then like Ninja just gets bombarded by friend requests. That's what. Anyways, I want to look at the low polys. So the low poly for the most parts are looking pretty good. Um, I see that you optimized here down to a 4 edge bevel. I'd probably go down to 3 just to get like really nitpicky with it. 4 is pretty unnecessary for some micro bevels, and like I think Kosh did a 3 edge bevel here. Yeah, the 3 edge bevel is perfect. You really don't need 4. It just adds a lot of needless like density in areas you don't really need it. Um, this geo here can be reduced. I'm pretty sure. Well, there's like a subtle curve. It's really subtle. What you could do is just collapse the geo in here, and by that I mean collapse these edges here. Excuse me. Save a bit of geo there. Um, Also, this is a lot of geo here. I know the tri count probably was off. What did I say? Around 6K. Oh, okay. We're a bit over. You could probably shave down, if you really needed to, you could shave down a lot of this geo. Um, this curve you could reduce some more and add a bit more geo here, I think. Because I think we actually see this in the render. One of them. Kind of see it here, but mostly right here. Yeah, you can kind of see a little faceting there. This curve won't really be seen unless you're rendering from like the top down angle, you know, like if my eyeball is looking down, it's an eyeball. Which even then it still won't really be seen, so you could collapse this down to like 3 or 4 edges probably. And same here with this, the internal part of the curve here. Oh, we're blocked there, but the silhouette here won't really be seen, so you can collapse that a little bit. I know the try count on this is pretty high because it's meant to just look cool, but take the feedback with, you know, the game art in mind. But that looks pretty solid. For the amount of density you have here, I'd kind of expect this curve to be a little higher. A bit more density there. You probably reduce some of this too, like especially some of this like internal screw threading part. You probably reduce some of that too. I think my main feedback overall is just kind of reduce. Other than that, looks great. It's clean. This almost looks like a sub D. It almost looks like you worked off of like a sub D model or something. But it's really clean. Bloody lovely. Bloody lovely. Yeah, I like the way that you collapsed down here. You could probably just collapse these too. Like we're not. There's not really an angle we're gonna see that type of silhouette, but I like that we're breaking the screws down flat. That's cool. Yeah, whenever I see like internal curves like this, I always want to just collapse the geos so hard. That sounded weird, but like even down to like just in this area though, if you go too far over here, you'll start to see it, the faceting, but this area you won't have a silhouette read, so yeah. Looking good. Probably, yeah, mainly just this like area here, you could probably reduce a bit more. I'll stop nitpicking that. And the UVs look good. Might be a bit tight for I think, what did I say, 1K? I said 2K. Nah, you're probably fine. Yeah, you're probably fine. These look good. Nice job. All right. Texturizing, it looks dope. Absolutely awesome. First thing I'll call out, I think a lot of the references have this like really dark line. I think this is from like the glue or something. I don't know. But I think it would look a lot cooler here. I know the green has... It's a little hard to see. Well, actually, you do have it. I kind of prefer the look of like a dark black line. I think it looks a little cooler. It would add more like contrast as opposed to just gray or green and gray. I do like it up here. But I almost kind of want like that thick, readable dark line. I think that'd be really cool. One thing I noticed here, actually, I noticed that your highlight is really clean. Do you have a better reference or a better picture? It could. It might just be this render particularly, but this thing's very bumpy and it's supposed to have a very unclean sort of highlight. It feels like the highlight here kind of makes it read like plastic a little bit, with how like smooth it is. I almost want like more bumpiness, I think. I think that would help it out a little bit. But it's kind of just in that particular render. Like the rest looks good. Um, this stippling pattern looks super nice. Really good. R. I think you used grunge wipes brushed here. I can kind of see the grunge map tiling over all these. I think that looks like that's literally grunge wiped, brushed in Painter, I think. But anyways, it looks super cool. It has a nice contrast. Yeah, it looks sick. Man, what else do I got? The metal looks nice too. You could potentially, if you look very, can you see that in the render or in the ref? You could potentially add a bit more like wood grain like this on the surface. I see like this kind of white stuff here. I'm not a huge fan of whatever that is. Is it on the render? It is on the reference, yeah. Huh. Not sure what that is, but well, you matched it, so I can't fault you there. You actually matched it like almost perfectly. Nice. But I also want to see like more of that wood like I will say this render I think is kind of a little bit flat compared to what's going on in some of these. Like some of this cool wood grain would be awesome, I think, to like add a bit more variation. Also, I noticed there's like some sort of like weird triangle thing. I think that might be from your, I think it's from your topology here. You probably want to come up with some sort of different triangulation solution here. Potentially going this way. I can make straight lines. Nope, you can't. Okay. There. Try to shave down some of these tries because it is like, this is like an organic surface that's going to have a lot of pinching here with the way the low poly shading. Kind of see it. But it is very small though. You have to like really zoom in to see it. But it's also causing like some strange stuff here. Not sure what's going on here, but it looks a little weird. Yeah, I do like the pattern you got. It looks really nice. Very cool. Very cool. These renders are super sick, by the way. This one is, yeah. This render right here is pretty insane. Yeah, you should be proud of this one. This is a cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. This is a really good render. It does feel, oh my god, dude. I mute, dude, what? I'm so sorry, you jump scared me. This Twitch setting is insane. It is, there's a charm that happens every time you type a message, and I have the site muted. This is insane. Okay, I'm turning off my volume. There. I just I got jump scared by chat, dude. Um Sorry about that. Um but yes, three cha-chings is crazy. That's, I think you're slightly off centered on this image. I could be totally bullshitting you, but I feel like you're like very slightly to the left. could be bullshit. I don't know. I would need to draw an actual like grid in that. Yeah, I think you're slight. I think you're. I feel like you're slightly off center, but anyways, that renders. Let me draw money signs. Ching ching. All right. Really nice like roughness variation. Really makes it feel like a piece of wood and not like plastic. Very nice. I will say from this angle, I'm not a big fan of the metal height here. Feels kind of bubbly. Too sure. I think it's like it's supposed to be a washer, right? I think. Hmm. Maybe I'd probably make the noise like a little finer. I think feels a little too big. Yeah, it feels a little too scaled. Probably make it tone it down. Just make it like a kind of a more basic noise. I think would be a little bit better. Um, yeah, but that's getting quite picky. You did a nice job with these lettering. The letters. It would have been cool if you added this like green to the to one of these letters or something. That could have been cool. I think that's all I got. Oh, I think some of these. One thing you'll notice with the wood, I did this on the one of my projects, but on the like wood handguard that we did, but the edges get a little bit darker. Oh, I'm using green on green. The edges of the model, the color kind of fades out to like a bit of a darker tone, which I think you might have missed a little bit here. I think that might be all I got now. Super nice work. I like it. I have an idea. Let's go to the next one. Awesome work, Dimma. Nice job. Kosh at 5.8k tries. I'm gonna check the model again, but I don't see blatant. Super nice renders. The Allen key and the screws. Nice. Excellent work, excellent work. Although if you take these screws out, wouldn't the base here fall out? Oh no, it's screwed in here. Sorry, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how this thing works. But interesting. Okay. I have a few notes on the textures, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Um, model looks great. You guys absolutely nailed it. Yeah, you got all these forms. You could have potentially gone like softer here. It feels a little like 3D CG the way this is kind of booleaned out here. Some of the references are a little sharp, but it gets a little soft here. I think that would have been cool to match. Let's see if Dimma did that actually. A little hard edged here as well. Ah, wait, no, you guys did it right. You guys did it right. It gets hard edge here, but then it softens right here in the corner. You guys are right. Well, I feel like this one could maybe have been done a bit more softness on the edge. It's a pretty tricky little form there, but yeah. And then I think like with wood in general, I think it's important to like do a little sculpt pass on it because I feel like a lot of this kind of just reads a little too box model-y. You know, take one of these corners and like smooth it out. Just grab like grab the what's it called? Oh my god, the smooth brush, and just smooth out some of these forms. I think that'd really help it read a bit more like wood and less like a 3D model. That could be applied anywhere. It could be applied here, especially in the corners. Usually, it's probably really soft here. Yeah, not really, but definitely here. Definitely like sculpt a little bit so it's less, so it comes down less like a 3D asset, poly modeled, or I think you maybe did this in CAD. I forget, but okay. Looking good, nonetheless. Looking good. Also, is this your own color version? I don't think I saw this particular one. I know this. I think you referenced this one, right? Okay, cool. All right, let's look at the low poly. Ooh. Low poly. Cool, cool. Going lower on the bottom details. That's cool. Okay. Okay. I think there's a small problem. I think this silhouette here is visible. I think it's an important area. So I think what I would probably do is just add a few more segments on these. Because I know if you look at it from your eyeball, if you look at it from like a glancing angle, you're going to see this point pretty hard. So I think this curve is a little bit more important than I think. Yeah, especially here. It's just too low. Probably just add one every other. What else we got? What else we got? A bit low here. What does that look like? Okay, actually, what am I seeing here? Was there? There we go. I'm curious what I'm seeing there because this looks low, Paul. Sorry, something in my eye. Hmm. It's hard to tell without the model in hand, but something about this silhouette here reads a little low. I like the 3-edge bevel. Cool. All right. Yeah, I like the density you chose for some of these big prominent curves. Very nice, very nice. Yeah, then kind of the same thing as as Dimma's. You could probably collapse. Looks like you did a pretty good job collapsing. You could probably collapse a little bit more in here if you really wanted to crunch this thing down. Um, and then potentially some more right here. And then I don't think this thing has much like side silhouette of like a bulge here. You could potentially go lower. Especially some of this geo right here. We have a nice straight line right here. Some of this geo here isn't doing much for this curve, I don't think. Yeah, you could potentially collapse some of those edges there. Um, this curve here is pretty dense. But Yeah, I think it works. Actually, well, collapse one edge here. That's pretty nitpicky, but um, then also right here, it's a little faceted right here, but it has a nice curve over here, so it leads me to believe that um, the geo could be spread out a little bit better. So if you grab this, do a set flow in max, and then do another set flow here, so this edge moves over here. It's a little inconsistent right here. Other than that, I think we are all Gucci. Potentially too low right here. Potential. Hmm. I fear this internal curve. Where is it? Right here might be too low. I can kind of see a little bit of some hard facets here. We might see them in the renders. Yeah, some hard faceting right here. But that's a pretty easy fix. All right, let's look at the UV. The UV double. Nice and straight. Very nice. Nice. Um, the only kind of nitpick that I have is there might be a tighter packing solution for this, or I think just take some of these small shells and just scale them up slightly to fill up a bit more space, and then just get, because you want to squeeze as much UV res out of this as you can, and scaling things up like that might give you like 10 more pixels than like the surrounding, which isn't really noticeable. Um, it would make sense not to do that if it was like, if the difference was like 50 pixels. Like, yeah, that's like a disgusting difference. But just grabbing some of these shells and scaling them up a little bit, getting them more to like to fill up some of this space, because we want to make sure that everything's like being used and we're not wasting um, too much space. So like you'd probably scale this shell up here and then kind of relocate some of these like over to here, to like right here or something. And then that would kind of just use this space a little bit more. 3ds Max detected. Us 3ds Maxers got to stick together. Love me 3ds Max. Love 3D. But other than that, it's all straight. It's all good. All good. Cha-ching. There we go. Okay. The textures are where I have the most notes for you on this one. Okay, where to start? Where to start? Where to start? I would like to start here. Okay, so right off the bat, this one feels a bit plasticky. And I think what it is if you take a look at the highlight here, there's not really enough bump to it. It feels like too smooth of a highlight. And then some of these uh height, like I don't know what you call them, striations, I don't know, little little wood patterns, they feel a little too soft. um yeah, they just feel a little too soft. Also, the grain is a little confusing. Here it's going this way, but then down here it's going this way. Another thing too is we don't quite have the noticeable um, grain to it. Let me show. Let me find an example, better one. Here. So on this one, we can see very clearly like the strands of the wood, right? But I'm not really seeing that here. And here they're kind of going. It's like crisscross of the grain. It doesn't really look it doesn't feel intentional because I can also kind of see it going over. Like I can almost kind of see it going over multiple strands, which doesn't quite feel too realistic. Um, aren't you bullied at work for the passion, dude? I'm bullied by everyone. 3ds Max is a goated software. Another thing too, this metal feels really soft. Like the high poly, I think might have been polished a bit too much. It also reads a little bit flat. I think Dimma did a really good job on the metal, making it feel a bit aged, but not like too aged. Definitely feels like something you'd find coming out of like a factory line, you know. I think yours. Where was yours? Yours feels a little bit like pletal, like a plasticky metal. I think it could use a bit more detailing. Could just be the lighting in this too, but yeah. So another thing too is I'm not a big fan of how you're handling this dark edge here. It feels like um it doesn't feel natural is I think what I want to say. It doesn't quite feel natural. It feels very uniform. Like very uniform when in reality over here we can see where was you can see how it warps and it gets thicker in some areas, thinner in others. Like here it like thins out right here. We're not really getting that. And then also it should be pretty solid black line. Sorry, one second. It should be a pretty solid black line. I feel like we're missing. There's like some subtle gaps where it just kind of doesn't feel quite right. I kept trying to erase this because I thought it was my marker, but it looks a little better right here. But we're still not really getting like yeah here it just looks too straight. Looks too straight. I am liking the jaggedy details you got here. Um, but I wish they were kind of blended in a bit more. It feels too straight. Um, there's a big difference between how it looks on the blue versus how it looks on the orange wood. The orange wood doesn't have that natural feel, but this feels a bit more. Not sure why that is. Sure. Okay. The stippling pattern looks cool. Um, there's something about it I don't like. I'm trying to put my finger on it. It feels tiled, like it's tiling. Hmm. Man, I don't know how to explain it, but when I look at it from this angle, I almost feel like some of these details are like being tiled, but I think they're not. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to explain it. Hmm. Let's move on. Maybe I'll figure it out later. Um. Okay. I think what you could have done is introduced more color into it, color variance. If you see the the colors, they get almost white in some areas, white, deep blue, dark blue. There's some white, there's some like orange specks here and there. I think maybe a bit more of that would have been great because I think from the side it just kind of reads like a bump pattern. I think it needs a bit more of the diffuse variation. And then I think your wood needs a bit more contrast. So, right, it's a pretty nice blue here, but I think working in some more darker areas, some big lighter areas, especially like here, these big areas, these would have been nice to have. I think it's feeling a little flat in this area. And I think that kind of applies to really all of it. It feels kind of, the wood kind of feels a bit too basic. I think I just said I think 3 times in a row. Ah, very nice. Excellent work, excellent. Yeah, this metal reads really soft. I want to sharpen that up in the high poly. Yeah, I think a bit more, um, just kind of generally like detailing, just wood detailing, and I think that would have really helped it pop a bit more. Um, the R here feels a little basic. I think that one feels a little. Um, some like some of this like glue in here. I don't know what it is. There's like a little glue going on in here. That would have been cool to have. It almost looks like it almost like looks like a dirt in here. But yeah. This render has a lot of really cool, not render, this reference has a lot of really cool detailings I think he could have added. These would have all been pretty good ideas, I think. Even though the one that you're following might not have that, I think adding stuff like this is always cool to add, like maybe some more variation or just to get some like ideas. Uh, and taking a look at this reference here, I think you could have gotten a bit more variation in the wood down here. You can see like some areas are light, some areas are darker, lighter, darker. And I also think we're kind of missing that. Yeah, down here we're kind of missing the wood look of it. Like especially right here, we're almost missing this black strip here. It reads like a little plasticky here. I think it needs a bit more love with the more finer detailings, getting some of this like fine wood grain, some of the noise in. Um, yeah, and then I think the R feels a little basic. I think it's supposed to be like burned or something. I think I would have added a bit of noise inside of it, as it kind of just feels like a plain black like height stamp stencil, you know. Here you can kind of see that it's got some grit to it. I think a bit more grit would have been cool. Plus we're at 2K, which I think we have enough resolution for probably. Especially if you go back and scale up some of these smaller shells, you should have a pretty decent res to get some cool grit in there. Um, yeah, the same notes down here kind of applied up here as well. Um, just reads very plasticky. This almost reads like this reminds me of like a balloon, like a you like tie a balloon and the knot has like the little rubber. This is very like it feels like an obscure reference, but it feels almost like rubber folds or something here, as opposed to wood. Um, ooh, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the overlay of wood grain that you've done here. I don't really like how it goes across. Whoops, just all these strands of wood. Doesn't really feel. It feels kind of CG. I think, yeah. Okay. I think that's all I've got. We're also kind of missing like the wood detailing here. Like this side has the wood grain, but this side we're kind of missing that. It might be too. Might need to be more in the diffuse because I know we're out of. We're not in highlight here. Maybe. Not too sure. But some more like noticeable diffuse. Otherwise, it kind of reads like a metal plate right here, or like a plastic plate. Um, yeah. And then maybe down here, probably like some more darker would colors would be cool. Oh, thank you, 3D Mentor, man. You didn't have to do that, but thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yes. So my main feedback would be probably to just go into a bit more detail on the wood, make it feel a little bit less plasticky. Make sure we don't get a smooth highlight here. Otherwise it starts to read like a plastic. We do not want. Yeah. I think that might be all I got. Actually, I wanted to look at the little screw here. Screw. I like this look of this screw. I don't like the look of the washer going around it. Again, it feels very soft here, but I don't like the gray black. This almost feels like a transitional, like in between, like an in between gray plasticky metal. I'm stuck on best of 7 ads. I thought I turned off ads. I don't know. Twitch just be doing shit, man. But I do like the little micro details you added. Cool. I do like the coloring you've got here. Very cool. All right. Well, I think that's all I've got. I like that you baked down that screw. That's nice. Yeah, you won't be able to tell. Get out of here. All right. Cool. Well, thank you both for participating. I think my favorite of the two is going to be Dimma, the first place prize. I believe this is a back-to-back champion. Or not a back-to-back, sorry. That's a... Oh, you're both challenge winners. Maybe I need to make like a super challenge. Huh. But very awesome work. You could have submitted a cube and got top 3. You could have, yes. But nonetheless, very nice work from both. I think Dimma squeaks it out with a bit more fidelity in the textures. I think low poly could use a bit more optimization, but yeah. This render here, look. Oh, I didn't do best render. Was this render here? I think if you go ahead and put a bit more detail into the wood, I think this render might be your best one. However, I am a big fan of this one here. I think this will be your best. Cha-ching. That's awful. Sorry. Whoops. I really like the screws and the Allen wrench. Really cool. Really cool stuff. Really cool. But all right, I think that's all I got. Yeah. So thank you both. And